Call the Senate to order. Sergeant Arms will please secure the chamber doors. Members, please take your seats. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Mr. President.
All right, Senators, on this Tuesday, February 25th, we are very pleased to have Pastor Lloyd McGriff of Galilee Baptist Church in Suitland, Maryland, guest of the distinguished senator from the 25th District. Please rise for the invocation.
We were blessed to hear from the Morgan State Choir this morning. What a glorious time to assemble here in the Senate. Let us bow for a word of prayer. Almighty God, as we gather in the Maryland State Senate, overlooking the majestic Chesapeake Bay, in the historic city of Annapolis, may we all reflect on the privilege to serve the people. Senators elected by the people to represent the people for such a time as this. Times of crisis, times of difficulty, and yet times of opportunities and possibilities. Let the Senate convene with knowledge, wisdom, and understanding, determined to make a difference in the communities they serve. Bless these 47 senators, from the mountains of Allegheny County to the shores of Somerset County. Oh God, let this Senate be reminded you do not have to be great to start in life, but you do have to start to be great in life. Now bless every senator with sound mental health, adequate physical strength. Make them mindful that burnout is real, depression is real, but God is able. Make them mindful that they serve a God who can do anything but fail. Bless their families as they are gathered here, sacrificing to serve in this chamber. Remind them of the value of time. Let them be reminded I've only just a minute, only 60 seconds in it. Forced upon me, can't refuse it. Didn't seek it, didn't choose it, but it's up to me to use it. I must suffer if I lose it, give account if I abuse it. Just a tiny little minute, but all eternity is wrapped up in it. Let all 47 senators maximize their minutes. And in the end, we shall give you the glory, the honor, and the praise. Amen. Thank you. Appreciate you. Thank you, seriously.
Recognize the senator from the 25th District.
Thank you, Mr. President. Today is my distinct honor to introduce to you Reverend Dr. Lloyd McGriff. Pastor McGriff has served as the visionary leader of Galilee Baptist Church in Suitland, Maryland for over 20 years. He has successfully combined his passion for preaching with his commitment to advocacy, fostering the growth of Galilee ministry while making a positive impact on the surrounding communities. Under his leadership, the church established the Galilee Community Development Corporation, which provides assistance to individuals in need of food and clothing. The GCDC has helped thousands of residents in Prince George's County community and remains a vital resource for those seeking support. Beyond that, Dr. McGriff is a life member of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated and serves his congregation passionately alongside his wife, First Lady Monica McGriff, and their 3 sons. District 25 thanks you for your commitment to service, to leadership, and to community empowerment. Your dedication to uplifting others through faith, advocacy, and outreach has left a lasting impact on countless Prince Georgians and Marylanders as a whole. Mr. President, please move to journalize the Reverend's remarks.
Without objection, certainly we will journalize the needed invocation this morning and appreciate it today more than most. So thank you. Thank you. All right. Let's see. Has everyone recorded their presence in the chamber? Madam Majority Leader? Almost there. All right. The clerk will take the call. With 44 members in the chamber and a quorum being present, the Senate of Maryland is now in session. We have several resolutions today. Recognizing Senator from District 2.
Hey, thank you, Mr. President. So a few weeks ago, we heard a lot of talk about a certain team was going to three-peat or not. And while that team could not, today we welcome back a group of young women from my alma mater who accomplished just that. Led by second-year head coach Lacey Johnson, the 2024 North Hagerstown High volleyball team finished with an impressive 22-2 record, adding to their legacy of dominance. The Lady Hubs captured the CMC Big School Championship, the 3A West Regional Championship, and secured their third 3A Maryland State Championship. The Hubs were unstoppable in the playoffs, not dropping a single set on their way to the state title. Additionally, they extended their dominance over local competition, winning their 33rd consecutive match against Washington County opponents. Mr. President, I request that the clerk read the resolution in full, and colleagues, please extend a big Senate welcome as we recognize and celebrate our 3A state volleyball champions and three-time defending champs, the North Hagerstown High Lady Hubs.
Clerk will read the resolution in full.
Be it hereby known to all that the Senate of Maryland offers its sincerest congratulations to North Hagerstown High School girls volleyball team in recognition of winning the 2024 Class 3A Volleyball State Championship. We applaud your outstanding season and wish you many more. Congratulations. The entire membership extends its best wishes and directs this resolution be presented on this 25th day of February 2025.
Clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President?
Has everyone recorded their vote? So the clerk will take the call. The Senate of Maryland unanimously celebrates North Hagerstown High School girls volleyball team for your 2024 Class 3A Volleyball State Championship. Congratulations. Thank you all so much for joining us. Keep up the great work on the court and in the classroom. Both and. Thank you all. All right, let's, Senator from District, from Howard and Montgomery.
Colleagues, please join me in welcoming the Glenelg girls lacrosse team, the 2024 state champions. This team has built a legacy of excellence, contributing to Glenelg High School's reputation as one of the top public schools for lacrosse in the country. Under the leadership of Coach Pagnotta, who was named USA Lacrosse Magazine's Coach of the Year, the team battled through a tough season to claim their 6th state title. In the championship run, they ended Manchester Valley's incredible 36-game winning streak before defeating Queen Anne's for the state title. In honor of their outstanding achievement, I ask the clerk to read the resolution.
Clerk will read the resolution in full.
Be it hereby known to all that the Senate of Maryland offers its sincerest congratulations to Glenelg High School girls lacrosse team in recognition of winning the 2024 Class 2A Lacrosse State Championship. We applaud your outstanding season and wish you many more. Congratulations. The entire membership extends its best wishes on this memorable occasion and directs this resolution be presented on this 25th day of February 2025.
Clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President?
Has everyone recorded their vote? If so, the clerk will take the call. To the young women of the Glenelg High School girls lacrosse team, congratulations on your 2024 Class 2A Lacrosse State Championship. Congratulations. Keep up the great work on the field and in the classroom. Got to win in both places. Yeah. All right. We're going to stick with the senator from District 9, Howard and Montgomery.
Thank you, colleagues. Today I'm proud to recognize the Glenelg boys lacrosse team, also the 2024 state champions. Their victory marks another milestone in the school's storied lacrosse program, which with 5 state titles remains one of the best in the nation. Led by Coach Hatmaker, also named USA Lacrosse Magazine's Coach of the Year, the team ended their season on an impressive 14-game win streak. In the championship game, they secured the title in a hard-fought battle against Hereford, overcoming a late-game scare to bring home the trophy. In recognition of their incredible achievement, I ask the clerk to read the resolution.
Clerk will read the resolution in full.
Be it hereby known to all, the Senate of Maryland offers its sincerest congratulations to Glenelg High School boys lacrosse team in recognition of winning the 2024 Class 2A Lacrosse State Championship. We applaud your outstanding season and wish you many more. Congratulations. The entire membership extends its best wishes on this memorable occasion and directs this resolution be presented on this 25th day of February 2025.
Clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President?
Has everyone recorded their vote? So the clerk will take the call. To the young men of Glenelg High School boys lacrosse team, the Senate of Maryland unanimously celebrates your 2024 Class 2A Lacrosse State Championship. Congratulations. Well done. Keep up the great work on the field and in the classroom, both places. Keep it up. Good job. All right, let's go ahead and recognize the senator from Howard County.
Thank you, Mr. President. We have a very special anniversary today. The University of Maryland Center for Environmental Science, UMSES, was founded in 1925 on Solomon's Island. It's now called the UMSES Chesapeake Biological Laboratory. UMSES has a statutory mission to conduct a comprehensive scientific program and apply predictive ecology for the improvement and preservation of Maryland's physical environment. This mission is accomplished through research, education, and public service. And there are actually locations all over the state. There's the Appalachian Laboratory in the mountains of western Maryland, the Biological Laboratory at the Patuxent River, Horn Point Lab on the Eastern Shore, and the Institute of Marine and Environmental Study or Technology in Baltimore. UMSE's integration and application network includes the annual Chesapeake Bay Report Card and assesses ecosystem health around the world. Look, this is, I've had the opportunity to work with these folks over a number of years. The Chesapeake Commission, Bay Commission, the work that comes out of here makes a tremendous difference in our quality of life in Maryland. We need them. They've been extraordinary, and we're very grateful. With us today is Dr. Fernando Mialis Wilhelm, who is the president of UMSES, Dr. Karis Mitchmore, who is the interim director of the Biological Laboratory, Dr. Jamie Pearson, who is with the Faculty Senate, and Dave Namazi, who is the chief of staff. If we could, Mr. President, have the resolution read.
Clerk will read the resolution in full.
Be it hereby known to all that the Senate of Maryland offers its sincerest congratulations to the University of Maryland Center for Environmental Science in recognition of the 100th anniversary of improving and preserving Maryland's environment through a comprehensive scientific program of research, education, and public service. The entire membership extends its best wishes on this memorable occasion and directs this resolution be presented on this 25th day of February, 2025.
The clerk will call the roll.
Mr. President,
Has everyone recorded their vote? If so, the clerk will take the call. To the wonderful folks at UMSES, University of Maryland Center for Environmental Science, congratulations on your 100th birthday. Happy birthday. Doing wonderful, wonderful work. All right, Senators, we are very pleased. We thought maybe we had lost it and we were running a little bit late, but thank you to the Herculean efforts of our wonderful Chief of Staff here. We were able to save the moment. And so we're very pleased to have with us again for the second time this year. Thank you very much, Dr. Conway, thank you. The Morgan Choir. We are going to have two songs being performed, and Dr. Conway is going to introduce each song, I believe, at the mic. Is that in between? Wonderful. As they're lining up, as I saw them leaving, getting onto the bus, I was desperately hoping that maybe there was a way we could get everyone out of class for a little bit, at least another hour, you know.
We bring you greetings from Morgan State University. In the words of our university president, Dr. David Wilson, we grow the future and lead the world one student at a time. We began with Wade in the Water by one of our graduates, Jasmine Barnes, and our second selection, simply, I'll Stand by Raymond Wise.
Thank you all so much. Thank you. Dr. Conway, thank you. That was remarkable. Gives us hope in times that are sometimes challenging to know we have such incredible folks like this that are leading the way.
Mr. President.
Yes, recognize the Senator from Prince George's.
I am hoping that these youngsters had an opportunity to visit the Miller Building on the second floor to see Dr. Nathan Carter's statue. It was wonderful. I'm just overwhelmed.
Thank you. All right, well, that'll help turn a day. We can do some good things, you know. All right, let's go ahead and see if there are any announcements. Yes, recognize the Senator from Howard County.
Thank you, Mr. President. I believe there are some members of the Maryland Continuing Care Residents Association who are there here for their Advocacy Day in the gallery, and I ask the body to have a warm Senate welcome for them.
Welcome. They got a nice performance today. Any other introductions? If not, so, yes, from the Minority Leader.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. February 25th, I would like the body to welcome my mom, who is here celebrating her birthday. And I asked her over the weekend, I said, what do you want to do for your birthday? And she says, I want to come down to the Senate and see you and all your friends. So I was happy to be able to bring her down and see everybody. So thank you. Thank you very much, Mr.
Thank you. It's so great to see you. I'm sorry I didn't see you earlier. I'll catch you afterward. That's right. That's right. It's for you. Happy birthday, right? Excellent. No, thank you. Very good. Yes, Senator from the Capital City.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, I know how much we all value including young people in the work that we do. I have joining me on the floor today Abigail Zachariah. She's a freshman at Annapolis High School, currently enrolled in their International Baccalaureate program. Abigail's dedication to leadership and politics shines through in her involvement in JROTC, Model UN, at her church, and much more. With the passion for politics and justice that she began at just the age of 6, Abigail is committed to making a difference in her community and beyond, and she's joining me today as a shadow student. Thank you, Abigail.
All right, welcome, welcome. Thanks for being here with us. All right, I think that does it for introductions. So we consider the reading of the journal from the prior legislative day. We'll see how much we can get through today. We're going to start with second readers. Let's go ahead to the report on the Committee of Finance. This is report number 6. Clerk, read the bill.
Senate Bill 302, Senator Lamb, Maryland Small Business Innovation Research and Technology Transfer Incentive Program, alterations favorable.
Recognize the senator from Prince George's as the floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. This bill removes the award and investment limits under the Maryland Small Business Innovation Research and Technology Transfer Incentive Program within the Maryland Technology Development Corporation. There are no amendments. There's no fiscal impact. I move the bill.
Floor leader moves for the adoption of the favorable committee report. Any discussion? Any objections? Without objection, the favorable committee report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, Senate Bill 302 is hereby ordered printed for third reading. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 459, Senator Guile, Education and Health Emergency Use Epinephrine alterations favorable.
Recognize the bill sponsor is the floor leader.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Colleagues, there's a new product that's being used now, epinephrine, that can be not only delivered in an injectable form, but also via by your nose, but nasal delivery. So what this bill does is it replaces the term auto-injectable epinephrine with emergency use epinephrine in the Maryland Code, thereby authorizing the use of both injectable and non-injectable epinephrine in existing statutory programs. The bill defines emergency use epinephrine as a portable, disposable drug delivery device or product approved by the FDA that contains a pre-measured single dose of epinephrine used for the treatment of anaphylaxis in emergency situations. Non-injectable forms of epinephrine include nasal sprays, inhaled sprays, and sublingual tablets. There is no fiscal impact. There is no opposition to the committee hearing. I move the adoption of the favorable committee report.
Floor leader moves for the adoption of the favorable committee report. Any discussion? Any objections? Without objection, the favorable committee report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, Senate Bill 459 is hereby ordered printed for third reading. Clerk, read the next bill.
Senate Bill 522, Senator Charles, Home Builders New Home Sales Notice of Appliance Warranty Registration favorable with 2 amendments.
Recognize the senator from District 8 as the floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. As amended, Senate Bill 522 requires that a person registered as a home builder in the state provide at the time of closing for the initial sale of a new home certain information about the warranties for any appliance in the home as registered by the home builder. Under the bill, appliance includes the heating, ventilation, and conditioning systems. Amendment number 1 is technical. Amendment number 2 is as described above, requiring the information be provided at closing rather than including the information in the contract for initial sale. There's no fiscal impact. I move the amendments and the adoption of a favorable committee report.
Floor leader moves for the adoption of the 2 committee amendments and the favorable committee report. On the amendments, any discussion? Any objections? Without objection, the 2 committee amendments are adopted. Question now is on the amended report. Any discussion? Any objections? Without objection, the amended report is adopted. Are there any further amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, Senate Bill 522 is hereby ordered printed for third reading. Clerk, read the next bill.
Senate Bill 523, Senator Charles, State Employees Cancer Screening Paid Leave favorable.
Recognizing the senator from Anne Arundel as the floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senate Bill 523 may entitle all state employees, including temporary and part-time employees, up to 4 hours of paid cancer screening leave in any 12-month period for cancer screening after obtaining approval from their appointing authorities. The Secretary of Budget and Management must adopt regulations governing cancer screening leave. Mr. President, I know that in speaking with the sponsor that there is some amendments that he would like to bring, so we ask that we special order this till appropriate time tomorrow.
All right. Any objections from the floor? Without objection, the bill will be special ordered to the
Thank you,
appropriate
Mr. President.
time tomorrow. All right. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 578, Senator Lamb, Business Regulation Home Improvement Guarantee Fund alterations, favorable with one amendment.
Recognize the bill sponsor as the floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senate Bill 578 authorizes the Maryland Home Improvement Commission to award a claimant attorney's fees from the Home Improvement Guarantee Fund. The bill also repeals a requirement that a final court-ordered judgment or final award in arbitration, quote, expressly finds on the merits that a claimant is entitled to an award from the fund in order to recover compensation from the fund itself. There is one amendment. It clarifies that the total award, including attorney's fees, cannot exceed $30,000 and adds other clarifying language. Move the adoption of the amendment and the favorable committee report.
Floor leader moves to the adoption of the one committee amendment and the favorable committee report. On the amendment, any discussion? Any objections? Without objection, the one committee amendment is adopted. Question now is on the amended report. Any discussion? Any objections? Without objection, the amended report is adopted. Are there any further amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, Senate Bill 578 is hereby ordered printed for third reading. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 665, the President, Maryland Uniform Disposition of Abandoned Property Act, revisions, favorable.
Recognizing the minority whip as the floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. This bill Senate Bill 665 deals with some alterations to the Disposition of Abandoned Property Act, and I was so excited about the bill, they've made me the floor leader. It generally modernizes the Maryland Uniform Disposition of Abandoned Property Act. Among other provisions, the bill explicitly applies the requirements of the act to additional forms of property that were not included before, including virtual currency. It establishes new requirements and procedures related to abandoned property claims that align with national best practices. It authorizes the comptroller to waive the filing requirement and directly distribute funds of less than $5,000 under certain circumstances, and authorizes the comptroller to retain additional proceeds from the sale of abandoned property to use for specified purposes. So there were no committee amendments and no opposition at the committee hearing. I would move the favorable committee report.
Floor leader moves for the adoption of the favorable committee report. Any discussion? Yes. Recognize the senator from Montgomery.
Just had a quick question with floor leader yield for a very quick question.
Senator may proceed.
So the virtual currency, is that just kept in the unclaimed property fund?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Any further discussion? Any objections to the report? Without objection, the favorable committee report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, Senate Bill 665 is hereby ordered printed for third reading. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 867, Senator Hester, Cyber Maryland Program Revisions, re-referred to Education, Energy, and the Environment.
All right, the bill will be re-referred to the EEE committee. Any without objection, so ordered. All right, let's go to. Unfortunately, EEE just keeps. We try to keep them away, but they come back and keep. It's like the honeypot of bills, you know. All right. Let's stay with finance. Report number 7. Clerk will read the first bill.
Senate Bill 52, Senator Augustine, Health Occupation State Board of Chiropractic Examiners, revisions, favorable with one amendment.
Recognize the senator from Montgomery as the floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. And yet another astonishingly good bill with an outstanding sponsor. Senate Bill 52 makes various changes to the State Board of Chiropractic Examiners and the law governing chiropractor licensure, including 1, altering board member appointment methods, 2, expanding disciplinary grounds, and granting the board authority to conduct certain examinations of licensees and inspections, revising licensure qualifications, and replacing the extern license with a preceptorship and authorizing the board to issue temporary licenses. The amendment increases from 15 to 20 the number of chiropractors required to nominate an individual to the board and makes other technical and clarifying changes. There is no fiscal impact. I move the amendment and the adoption of the favorable committee report.
Floor leader moves to the adoption of the one committee amendment and the favorable committee report. On the amendment, any discussion? Any objections? Without objection, the one committee amendment is adopted. Question now on the amended report. Any discussion? Any objections? Without objection, the amended report is adopted. Are there any further amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, Senate Bill 52 is hereby ordered printed for third reading. Clerk, read the next bill.
Senate Bill 67, Senator Simon Ayer, Health Occupations Board's notation of veteran status and eligibility for benefits, favorable with 2 amendments.
Recognized senator from the 37th District is the floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. As amended, Senate Bill 67 authorizes each Health Occupations Board to establish a process to include a notation of an individual's veteran status on a license, certificate, registration, or public profile. If a board establishes such a process, the application for the credential must allow an applicant to consent to, number 1, having a notation of veteran status on the applicant's credential, and number 2, being contacted by appropriate executive branch agencies about eligibility for state or federal veterans benefits. On request from an executive branch agency and in accordance with the Maryland Public Information Act, one of these boards must share appropriate information about an applicant with an executive branch agency. There are some amendments. The first is technical. The second adds references to public profile as described and strikes provisions related to a health occupations board assisting in determinations of eligibility for veteran benefits. There's no fiscal impact. I move the amendments and the adoption of the favorable committee report.
Floor leader moves to the adoption of the 2 committee amendments and the favorable committee report. On the amendments, any discussion? Any objections? Without objection, the 2 committee amendments were adopted. Question now is on the amended report. Any discussion? Any objections? Without objection, the amended report is adopted. Are there any further amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, Senate Bill 67 is hereby ordered printed for third reading. Clerk, read the next bill.
Senate Bill 72, Senator Lamb, Health Occupations Board, English proficiency requirement and licensure by endorsement for nursing, favorable with 2 amendments.
Recognizing the bill sponsor is the floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. As amended, Senate Bill 72 prohibits a Health Occupations Board from requiring an applicant to provide additional evidence of English proficiency if the individual already holds a valid unrestricted license, certification, or registration from another state that requires such evidence. Each Health Occupations Board that requires evidence of English proficiency must maintain on its website a statement that an applicant may not be required to provide additional evidence if the individual holds a credential from another state that requires such evidence. The bill also alters English proficiency requirements to the State Board of Nursing and the State Board of Pharmacy to align with the bill's requirements. There are 2 committee amendments. The first one is technical. Amendment number 2 strikes a requirement that each Health Occupations Board maintain a list of states that meet certain standards and substitutes the requirement to include a statement on each board's website as described. Move the 2 amendments and the adoption of the favorable committee report.
Floor leader moves to the adoption of the 2 committee amendments and the favorable committee report. On the amendments, any discussion? Any objections? Without objection, the 2 committee amendments are adopted. Question now on the amended report. Any discussion? Any objections? Without objection, the amended report is adopted. Are there any further amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, Senate Bill 72 is hereby ordered printed for third reading. Clerk, read the next bill.
Senate Bill 174, Senator Benson, Interstate Social Work Licensure Compact, favorable with 1 amendment.
Recognizing the chair of the committee is the floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senate Bill 174 enters Maryland into the Interstate Social Work Compact, and the bill establishes specific procedures and requirements for a social worker to practice under the multi-state license in a member state, the composition, powers, and responsibility of the Compact Commission, and 3 requirements related to the oversight, dispute resolution, and enforcement of the Compact. The amendment makes technical corrections for consistency with the Compact. There was no opposition at the committee hearing. I move the amendment and the adoption of the favorable committee report.
All right, floor leader moves to the adoption of the 1 committee amendment and the favorable committee report. On the amendment, any discussion? Any objections? Without objection, the 1 committee amendment is adopted. Question now on the amended report. Any discussion? Any objections? Without objection, the amended report is adopted. Are there any further amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, Senate Bill 174 is hereby ordered printed for third reading. Clerk, read the next bill.
Senate Bill 594, Senator Ellis, Public Health, Use of Opioid Restitution Fund and Training under the Overdose Response Program, favorable with 1 amendment.
Recognize the bill sponsors, the floor leader.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, Senate bill as amended, Senate Bill 594, help to address issues affecting our opioid crisis in Maryland. Over the last 10 years, over 22,000 Marylanders have died from overdose. In response to this, our state attorney general, who's joined with other states, and filed a lawsuit against pharmaceutical companies, drugstores, and have collected and will collect over the next 20 years hundreds of millions of dollars to help really alleviate this crisis. And the original bill that went through to set up our fund, Opioid Restitution Fund, was drafted before the settlement agreement was enacted. The settlement agreement is more positive and more uses for the Opioid Restitution Fund, and this bill basically reverted to the settlement agreement that came through with the Attorney Generals. So this bill says that the fund may only be used to provide monies for the purposes specified in the settlement agreement. It also alters the training on responding to opioid overdose to include emphasizing restoration of breathing, avoiding withdrawal, and compassionate post-overdose support and care. There is no fiscal impact on this bill. Mr. President, I move the amendment and the adoption of the favorable committee report.
Floor leader moves to the adoption of the one committee amendment and the favorable committee report. On the amendment, Chair recognizes the Chair of Judicial Proceedings.
Thank you, Mr. President, and I apologize to the sponsor and the floor leader of the bill. There are a number of local jurisdictions that are greatly impacted by the restrictions on the opioid fund. I just want to take another look at this. I'd ask that the bill and the amendment lie over under the rules. With all due respect, I just want to take another look. I don't want to hold up the bill. I just want to take another look at it.
Great, plenty of time. Yep. All right. The motion is in
okay?
order. The
Yes,
bill and the amendment will lie over under the rules. Clerk, read the next bill.
Senate Bill 674, Senator Heddleman, Maryland Commission for Women, Maryland Collaborative to Advance Implementation of Coverage of the Over-the-Counter Birth Control, favorable with one amendment.
Recognize the Chair of Finance.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senate Bill 674 establishes the Maryland Collaborative to Advance Implementation of Coverage of Over-the-Counter Birth Control. We passed the bill in 2016 to allow over-the-counter birth control, but it's really not been accessed as we thought it would be. So the purpose of the collaborative is to study and make recommendations to advance access. The Commission must provide staff for the collaborative, and the collaborative must submit an interim report to the Governor and the General Assembly by January 1, 2026, and a final report by December 1, 2027. The amendment authorizes the collaborative to consult with health professional associations in addition to other organizations as part of the study. There is no fiscal impact. I move the amendment and the adoption of the favorable committee report.
Floor leader moves to the adoption of the one committee amendment and the favorable committee report. On the amendment, any discussion? Any objections? Without objection, the one committee amendment is adopted. Question now is on the amended report. Any discussion? Any objections? Without objection, the amended report is adopted. Are there any further amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, Senate Bill 674 is hereby ordered printed for third reading. Clerk, read the next bill.
Senate Bill 684, Senator Augustine, Public Health, Health Equity Dashboard, favorable with one amendment.
Recognize the Vice Chair of the Committee is the floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senate Bill 684, as amended, requires the Maryland Department of Health and the Maryland Equity Commission to develop a clear and easy-to-read dashboard. The department must update the dashboard on a quarterly basis as determined by the data availability. The amendment alters the frequency at which the department must update the dashboard monthly to quarterly. There is no fiscal impact. I move the amendment and favorable committee report.
Floor leader moves to the adoption of the one committee amendment and the favorable committee report. On the amendment, any discussion? Any objections? Without objection, the one committee amendment is adopted. Question now on the amended report. Any discussion? Any objections? Without objection, the amended report is adopted. Are there any further amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, Senate Bill 684 is hereby ordered printed for third reading. All right, let's do one more in finance here. This is calendar number 8. Clerk, read the bill.
Senate Bill 547, Senator James, Commission to Study Health Insurance Pooling Establishment, favorable with one amendment.
Recognize the Senator from Carroll County as the floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senate Bill 547 establishes the Commission to study health insurance pooling for the purpose of studying pooling the public health employee health insurance purchasing among state, counties, municipal corporations, and local boards of education. The Department of Budget and Management will staff the Commission, but it is authorized to contract with external organizations to provide data analysis. The Commission's purpose is to analyze the impacts of pooling public employee health insurance purchasing and identify barriers that might be there to successful implementation. There is no fiscal impact or opposition. The amendment adds sponsors and removes the treasurer, the state treasurer, from the commission. Mr. President, this is an opportunity for us to look at ways that there could be cost savings with pooled purchases. There was something done on this a few years ago, but then we had the pandemic and a lot of it sort of fell by the wayside. So this, as we're looking for opportunities to save taxpayer money and get the best deal, this is we all thought in the committee, a good idea. So I would move the amendment and the adoption of the favorable committee report.
All right, floor leader moves to the adoption of the one committee amendment and the favorable committee report. On the amendment, any discussion? Any objections? Without objection, the one committee amendment is adopted. Question now on the amended report. Any discussion? Any objections? Without objection, the amended report is adopted. Are there any further amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, Senate Bill 547 is hereby ordered printed for third reading. All right, that does it for finance. Let's go ahead, let's go to education, energy, and the environment. Calendar report number 8. Clerk will read the first bill.
Senate Bill 37, Senator Hester, Electric Companies Regional Transmission Organizations Report, Utility Transparency and Accountability Act, favorable of 2 amendments.
Recognize the bill sponsor as the floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, Maryland, as you know, is one of 13 states in a regional transmission organization called PJM, one of the largest in the United States. And they make really big decisions covering customer utility rates and Maryland's energy mix. However, there isn't very much transparency. The purpose of this bill is to increase transparency and accountability by requiring our electric utilities that are members of PJM to disclose to the Maryland Public Service Commission any recorded vote they make within that organization. This bill passed the body unanimously last year, and there is one amendment this year which is technical and adds co-sponsors. The second amendment simply clarifies that the report on the vote cast by an electric company applies only to the Maryland affiliate of the company. So I urge the adoption of the 2 committee amendments and the favorable committee report.
All right, floor leader moves to the adoption of the 2 committee amendments and the favorable committee report. On the amendments, any discussion? Any objections? Without objection, the 2 committee amendments are adopted. Question now on the amended report. Any discussion? Any objections? Without objection, the amended report is adopted. Are there any further amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, Senate Bill 37 is hereby ordered printed for third reading. Clerk, read the next bill.
Senate Bill 153, Senator Simonaire, State Education, Energy, and the Environment Committee, House Environment and Transportation Committee, Code References, Revisions, favorable of 2 amendments.
Recognize the bill sponsor as the floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. This bill alters terminology in over 50 places in the Maryland law to reflect 1, the renaming of the Senate Education, Health, and Environmental Affairs Committee to the Senate Committee on Education, Energy, and the Environment, and 2, renaming the House Environmental Matters Committee to the House Environment and Transportation Committee. The bill also reflects its change in subject matter jurisdiction in the Senate Committee of Education, Energy, and Environment and Finance. There are 2 amendments. The first is technical. The second alters the membership of the Oversight Committee on Quality of Care in Nursing Homes and Assisting Living Facilities. I move the committee favorable report and the 2 amendments.
Floor leader moves to the adoption of the 2 committee amendments and the favorable committee report. On the amendments, any discussion? Any objections? Without objection, the 2 committee amendments are adopted. Question now on the amended report. Any discussion? Any objections? Without objection, the amended report is adopted. Are there any further amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, Senate Bill 153 is hereby ordered printed for third reading. Clerk, read the next bill.
Senate Bill 172, Senator Simonaire, Maryland Veterans Trust, Board of Trustees, membership favorable.
Recognize the bill sponsor as the floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. This bill expands the membership of the Board of Trustees of the Maryland Veterans Trust to include the Secretary of Disabilities. And given so many veterans have disabilities, it only made sense to add them to the board. It's supported by the Department of Disabilities and the Department of Veterans and Military Families. There were no amendments, no opposition, no fiscal impact. I move the favorable committee report.
Floor leader moves to the adoption of the favorable committee report. Any discussion? Any objections? Without objection, the favorable report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, Senate Bill 172 is hereby ordered printed for third reading. Clerk, read the next bill.
Senate Bill 182, Senator Simonaire, Maryland Veteran Service Animal Program, eligibility, family members of veterans, favorable.
Recognize the bill sponsor as the floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. In 2017, the legislature created the Maryland Veteran Service Animal Program, and the department has done a wonderful job. It's been very successful, and we've expanded it over the years. And this bill expands eligibility for the Maryland Veteran Service Animal Program to include eligible family members, as it makes conforming changes as well. There are no amendments, no opposition, and no fiscal impact. I move the favorable committee report.
Floor leader moves to the adoption of the favorable committee report. Any discussion? Any objections? Without objection, the favorable committee report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, Senate Bill 182 is hereby ordered printed for third reading. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 246, Chair, Education, Energy, Environment Committee, Maryland Veterans Trust, assistance to members of the Maryland National Guard, favorable.
Recognizing Senator from Baltimore County is the floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. This departmental bill expands the purpose of the Maryland Veterans Trust to include providing monetary and other assistance to members of the Maryland National Guard and their families, and authorizes the Maryland Veterans Trust to expend money from the Maryland Veterans Trust Fund to provide grants and or loans to Maryland National Guard members and their families. There's no fiscal impact, and there are no amendments. I move the favorable bill.
Floor leader moves for the adoption of the favorable committee report. Any discussion? Any objections? Without objection, the favorable committee report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, Senate Bill 246 is hereby ordered printed for third reading. Clerk, read the next bill.
Senate Bill 258, Chair, Education, Energy, and the Environment Committee, Natural Resources, Fishing Licenses and Stamps, alterations, favorable.
Recognizing Chair of the committee is the floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senate Bill 258 is a departmental bill from the Department of Natural Resources. The bill increases fees for senior sport fishing licenses, angler license, and trout stamps, and repeals the trout stamp exemption for senior sport fishing licenses. These fees directly support the management of recreational freshwater fisheries, very popular fishing programs and infrastructure needs. Mr. President, there were no committee amendments and no opposition. And just briefly, the reason there was no opposition is, for a little background, the resident trout stamp fee was last increased in 1992, 33 years ago, and 2007, 18 years ago in the case of the other stamps and licenses in this bill. And then DNR, as a result, created a work group, stakeholder work group in 2024, and they're the ones based on inflation, fees in neighboring states, average fees around the country. They're the ones that made these recommendations. So again, no amendments, no opposition. I'd move the adoption of the favorable committee report, Mr. President.
Floor leader moves to the adoption of the favorable committee report. Maybe not so easy. Let's check with the minority whip.
Thank you, Mr. President. I wonder if my friend, the chairman of the committee, would yield for a question.
Absolutely.
Senator may proceed.
Maybe a couple questions. So there was no opposition, you said, but it is true that there was 3 votes against it in the committee. So I know you mean there was no opposition at the hearing.
I'm sorry, no opposition testimony.
Yeah.
Yes, there were 3 votes, party line. I'll just say that.
Just for the record, yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'm a little curious, because I understand that there are user fees for things that we allow people to do in our state, fishing, for example. I'm looking at the increase here, and last year we had some fee increases in the wildlife space that were aimed at out-of-state folks. But this year, this bill has increases on both residents and out-of-state anglers. I was going to say fishers, anglers. And the increases to our residents, I mean, the resident annual license fee not doubles, it about 50% increase. But then the short-term 7-day license basically more than doubles.
Are you talking about the fees that were last increased in 1992, 33 years ago? Is that what you're referring to?
Well, yeah, because I've noticed that we've increased a lot of fees in this state recently, and it's starting to really add up. And so I think it's important to. I don't know that anybody's complained that we haven't been able to catch any fish.
Well, I would say, and you could maybe some of the detailed testimony, you'll see that those same fees you're referencing, the actual cost of providing those services have gone up 129%. So I appreciate that. But again, let me just maybe be more specific when I talked about stakeholder groups. So DNR convened this work group in 2024. Who was on this commission? It was the Black Bass Advisory Committee, the Sports Fishery Advisory Commission, and the Coldwater Fishery Advisory Committee. These are the constituencies impacted by the bill, and they're the ones that came up with the recommendations that you're looking at based on inflation, 33 years in the one case, 17, neighboring average fees around the country. That's why you saw no opposition in testimony, correct? You did correct me. No opposition testimony,
Understood.
verbal or written.
Understood.
Okay.
Understood. And I understand that was the point there. As we look at the non-resident, I mean, even though we're a little less perhaps sympathetic to folks coming from out of state, I mean, these are some very large increase. I mean, we're going from, for short-term license for 7 consecutive days, we're going from $7.50 to $45. And for a short-term 3-day license, we're going from $5 to $35. I mean, this is a large increase. I know you're going to say it was since 1992, but
Well, you're can I just say you're cherry picking a little bit. I mean, most of the fees, for example, currently $5 going to $12. You just immediately went to this one category, you know, that again, after 33 years does look, you know, as a big increase, not maybe so much the 5 to 12. I mean, I will say the testimony was pretty specific for a lot of the retirees. They will be paying a total of $32 a year annually between the 2 licenses, which seems to fund a popular set of programs, infrastructure, management of a division that's servicing this very group of folks that are paying the fee. So this is special fund going back to provide the kinds of programs that these folks want. So that, you know, I have to just continue to hammer that point.
I understand, Mr. Chairman, and Mr. President, thank you. There is no way this fund is allowed to be borrowed from, correct? I know that's not in this bill, I know, but...
It's a special fund, so I would suspect the answer is no. I'll get confirmation.
As a point of parliamentary perspective, it would be the same as any other special fund, I presume.
It could be done if it needed to be, but if somebody wanted, if the votes are there, you can do kind of what you want in the budget. I understand, but
only through a budget
within
amendment.
the confines of the Constitution.
Budget. Understood. No, understand. Mr. President, I wonder if I could have one day on a special order. I would have asked to lay over, but there's not an amendment. I have one amendment idea that I think it might help improve the bill.
That's fine. Thank you, Mr. President.
All right, seems there's no objection to the special order. Any objections from the floor? Without objection, the bill will be special ordered at the appropriate time. Tomorrow, clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 264, Chair, Education, Energy, and the Environment Committee, Plant Disease Control, Nurseries, Inspection, Certification, and Licensing Fees, favorable.
Recognize the Senator for Prince George's as the floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. This departmental bill increases various fees collected by the Secretary of Agriculture for the certification of nurseries. These fees are, again, in support of the nurseries for licensing and for inspections and for, again, just making sure that we have adequate disease control and inspections to make sure that we are keeping our nurseries safe. These fees were last altered in 2004. There are no committee amendments. I move the favorable committee report.
Floor leader moves to the adoption of the favorable committee report. Recognize the minority leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. If the floor leader would yield just for a couple of questions.
Yield?
Absolutely.
Senator may proceed.
Thank you very much, and I appreciate letting us know that these were last altered 21 years ago. The question is, the increase in fees goes into the Plant Protection Fund, accurate?
That is correct.
Okay. And as a result of that, MDE is supposed to do an annual inspection of each of the nurseries that pay into this fund, is that right?
What they currently do is there's the fee for the certification that is then used to support the inspections. What they have, that is what they are intending to do, is to get to the annual, but part of what the issue has been is that the fees have not kept up with the cost, and so that's where we need this additional money in order to ensure that they're able to do these annual inspections, actually.
Okay, and I think that can be certainly recognized if that's the intent, and that was going to be my next question. Do you know if MDE or MDA provides a report that says that they were able to reach all of these different nurseries and did inspections and therefore found no infestation or infected plants?
I am not aware of an annual report.
Okay. All right. Based on that, Mr. President, would it be okay for a one-day special order just to check that with MDA to see if they are providing that report? We just want to make sure that if we are increasing the fees, that they're going to do what they are asking for in their request for fees.
Sure.
Okay.
Senators moved to special order. No objection from the committee. Any
Thank
objection
you.
from the floor? Without objection, the bill will be special order at the appropriate time. Tomorrow, clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 265, Chair, Education, Energy, and the Environment Committee, Environment Reservoir Augmentation Permit Establishment, favorable with 2 amendments.
Recognize the senator from District 9 as the floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, this departmental bill builds on a pilot project that we had last year for the reuse of potable water. The bill establishes the Reservoir Augmentation Program and the permit applications, issuance, modification, and renewal related to those permits. It's really a cool bill because when as we're looking at water scarcity in some parts of the county, state, it allows water to be used in a circular fashion rather than a linear fashion. And so it's a good bill, passed unanimously, and I urge a favorable report. There are 2 committee amendments, sorry. The first is technical, and the second corrects references and adds reporting requirements. I urge the favorable committee report.
Floor leader moves to the adoption of the 2 committee amendments and the favorable committee report. On the amendments, any discussion? Any objections? Without objection, the 2 committee amendments are adopted. Question now on the amended report. Any discussion? Any objections? Without objection, the amended report is adopted. Are there any further amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, Senate Bill 265 is hereby ordered printed for 3rd reading. Clerk, read the next bill.
Senate Bill 296, Senator Augustine, Public Information Act, Public Access Ombudsman, Delegation of Powers, favorable with 1 amendment.
Recognize the bill sponsor as the floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. This bill authorizes the Public Access Ombudsman to delegate to a staff member of the Office of the Public Access Ombudsman any of the powers and duties granted to the Ombudsman. And this basically deals with public information requests and making sure that the Ombudsman is able to respond in a timely manner. Right now, it's been a challenge to do that, and so what this does is it attempts to give them a little bit more flexibility to be able to respond. There is an amendment that limits the duties that the Ombudsman may delegate to the staff, and want to do that to make sure that the staff members have the appropriate capability in order to be able to do what they're asked to do. I move the committee amendment and the favorable committee report.
All right, floor leader moves to the adoption. Before the senator does that, do they have to be an attorney? Does the ombudsman have to be?
The Ombudsman is, and that's the reason why for the amendment, and to ensure that if it were things that were legal, but they were an attorney, to make sure that that person only was able to do things that they were qualified for.
That makes sense. Thank you. All right, senator has moved for the adoption of the 1 amendment and the favorable committee report. On the amendment, any discussion? Any objections? Without objection, the committee amendment's adopted. Question now on the amended report. Any discussion? Any objections? Without objection, the amended report is adopted. Are there any further amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, Senate Bill 296 is hereby ordered printed for 3rd reading. Let's go to report number 9. We'll stick with education, energy, and the environment. Clerk will read the first bill.
Senate Bill 2, Senator Kagan, General Assembly Special Election to fill a vacancy in office, favorable.
Recognize the Vice Chair of the committee as the floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. I think you all probably remember this bill from the past. We have sent it over to the House. We're hoping that this year they're going to work with us. This just helps make sure that the voters get to elect rather than our party central committees select when a governor snags one of us to join their cabinet, or when someone retires or, God forbid, dies in the earliest days of a 4-year term. This simply makes that special election, rather than on its own, go into the same election cycle as the presidential election cycle. That saves local money and makes it clear, though, that democracy can thrive. There are no amendments, and I move the adoption of the favorable committee report. And it is a constitutional amendment. This would be on the ballot next year. Thank you.
All right. The floor leader moves to the adoption of the favorable committee report. Any discussion? Any objections? Without objection, the favorable committee report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, Senate Bill 2 is hereby ordered printed for 3rd reading. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 27, Senator Kagan, Election Law, Campaign Finance, Exploratory Committees, favorable with 1 amendment.
Recognize the Vice Chair as the floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. Last year we passed a bill that was similar but broader, that dealt with draft committees as well as exploratory committees. This year we narrowed it to just exploratory committees, and we have an amendment that was recommended by the State Board of Elections as to not just what an exploratory committee can spend its money on, but that it's really clear that it's for the advancement of their candidacy. The bill passed unanimously, and I move the adoption of the 1 committee amendment and the favorable committee report.
Floor leader moves for the adoption of the one committee amendment and the favorable committee report. On the amendment, any discussion? Any objections? Without objection, the one committee amendment is adopted. Question now on the amended report. Any discussion? Any objections? Without objection, the amended report is adopted. Are there any further amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, Senate Bill 27 is hereby ordered printed for third reading. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 252, Chair, Education, Energy, and the Environment Committee, Child Care Centers Certification, Staff Ratio Requirement, Repeal, favorable.
Recognize the senator from the 41st District as the floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. This departmental bill repeals a requirement that child care centers must have at least one staff member for every 20 children who is certified in first aid and CPR. There are no committee amendments. There's no fiscal impact. The bill passed committee unanimously, and I move the adoption of the favorable committee report.
Floor leader moves for the adoption of the favorable committee report. Any discussion? Any objections? Without objection, the favorable committee report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, Senate Bill 252 is hereby ordered printed for third reading. Clerk, read the next bill.
Senate Bill 257, Chair, Education, Energy, and the Environment Committee, Election Law, Notice to Permanent Absentee Voters, favorable.
Recognize the senator from Prince George's as the floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, this departmental bill requires the State Board of Elections to send a written communication prior to an election to a voter on the permanent absentee ballot list to confirm that the voter is on the list, the voter's address, and the method by which they wish to receive their absentee ballot. Additionally, the bill authorizes the Board of Election to use an alternative method of contacting a voter on the permanent absentee ballot list if it is unable to contact the voter using the method of communication previously chosen by the voter. There are no committee amendments, no financial impact. I move adoption of the favorable committee report.
Floor leader moves for the adoption of the favorable committee report. Any discussion? Any objections? Without objection, the favorable committee report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, Senate Bill 257 is hereby ordered printed for third reading. Clerk, read the next bill.
Senate Bill 259, Chair, Education, Energy, and the Environment Committee, Election Law, Local Boards of Election, Election Plan Requirements, favorable.
Recognize the Vice Chair as the floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, this is a bill that was requested by the State Board of Elections that's going to be common sense and make sure that our local elections are run even better. Rather than having 3 different plans submitted by our counties to the state, one for early voting, one for election day, and one for the location of drop-off boxes. This is just going to simply get the report earlier and get it compiled together. It also requires that the polling location, early voting location, and drop-off box locations are in places that are accessible for the disabled, accessible to mass transit, and fairly and reasonably distributed to where population is located. The bill passed unanimously. There are no amendments. I move adoption of the favorable committee report.
Floor leader moves for the adoption of the favorable committee report. Any discussion? Any objections? Without objection, the favorable committee report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, Senate Bill 259 is hereby ordered printed for third reading. Clerk, read the next bill.
Senate Bill 307, Senator Simon Nair, Anne Arundel County Board of Education Student Member Scholarship Increase, favorable with one amendment.
Recognizing the bill sponsor as the floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. This local bill increases the scholarship award for a student member of Anne Arundel County Board of Education who completes a full term. There was one amendment that added co-sponsors. I move the adoption of the one committee amendment and the favorable committee report.
Floor leader moves for the adoption of the one committee amendment and the favorable committee report. On the amendment, any discussion? Any objections? Without objection, the one committee amendment is adopted. Question now on the amended report. Any discussion? Any objections? Without objection, the amended report is adopted. Are there any further amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, Senate Bill 307 is hereby ordered printed for third reading. Clerk, read the next bill.
Senate Bill 378, Senator A. Washington, State Library Agency Family Literacy Pilot Program Establishment, favorable with one amendment.
Recognize the senator from the 43rd as the floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. This program adds important and needed services and programming support for families and communities in our our correctional facilities. This pilot program provides an opportunity for children of persons who are currently incarcerated to receive recordings of their parents reading stories to them. It provides children's books to the state correctional facility. And again, the committee voted unanimously for this bill. There's one committee amendment that simply adds sponsors. I move for the adoption of the committee amendment and the favorable committee report.
Floor leader moves for the adoption of the one committee amendment and the favorable committee report. On the amendment, any discussion? Any objections? Without objection, the one committee amendment is adopted. Question now on the amended report. Any discussion? Any objections? Without objection, the amended report is adopted. Are there any further amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, Senate Bill 378 is hereby ordered printed for third reading. Clerk, read the next bill.
Senate Bill 451, Senator King, Adult Education High School Diploma by Examination Requirements and Study, favorable with 2 amendments.
Recognizing the Senator from Baltimore City and County as the floor leader.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. SB 451 requires the Department of Labor to allow individuals who are taking a GED, which is the high school equivalency examination, to do so in the language of their choice. The department must also identify other appropriate languages. There are 2 committee amendments that add co-sponsors, and also it strikes the words language of their choice, and it clarifies that the individual can take the exam in English or Spanish. It also moves the effective date to July 2026. Mr. President, just background, Maryland currently is the only state in the country that requires everyone to that does not offer the opportunity to take the GED in either English or Spanish or some other language. We received testimony that this is a severe blockage for access, as we all know, to not only to furthering education, but also for workforce. So I move for the adoption of the committee amendments, the 2 committee amendments, and the favorable committee report. Yes, thank you.
All right, floor leader moves for the adoption of the 2 committee amendments and the favorable committee report. On the amendments, any discussion? Any objections? Without objection, the 2 committee amendments are adopted. Question now is on the amended report. Any discussion? Any objections? Without objection, the amended report is adopted. Are there any further amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, Senate Bill 451 is hereby ordered printed for third reading. Let's see, do we have everybody close? We have a special order calendar that's out of EEE. Let's see if we're ready for this one. This is number 14. Clerk will read the bill.
Senate Bill 24, Senator Kagan, Annotated Code Terminology, Clergy and Churches, Faith Institution, Places of Worship. Question is on the adoption of the 2 committee amendments and the favorable report.
All right, question is on the 2 committee amendments and the favorable committee report. On the amendments, is there any discussion? Vice Chair?
I have an amendment.
Senator has an amendment. On the committee amendments or after we've adopted those?
The latter. We've already adopted the committee report with its amendment. Is my understanding, but you're the president.
I think we have not, we still have to do the committee amendments. All right, let's do the committee amendments first. Are there any discussion on the committee amendments? Are there any objections? Without objection, the 2 committee amendments are adopted. Question is on the amended report. Any discussion on the amended report? Any objections? Without objection, the amended report is adopted. The senator has an amendment. The pages will collect and distribute the senator's amendment. Give us just a moment to get it up on the board. All right, oh, almost. Yep, Senator may explain the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. President. The senator from Anne Arundel County shortly ago did a terminology bill, and this is another terminology bill. We've got several. We've got one coming up on third reader, and just updating our codes to get rid of outdated language. There are something like 142 places in our code that use the word church. And it applies to everything from the environment to tax law, family law, the alcoholic beverage and cannabis, healthcare, and it just says it applies to churches. But there are other faith institutions. There are synagogues and temples and mosques, and there are lots of other religions. And so this bill simply does 2 things. It changes the word church to make it more inclusive by saying faith institution, or in some places it says places of worship, and it gets rid of gendered language that says clergyman, and it just says member of the clergy. So that's in all of these places. In our committee, we changed the definition. It did say church means any church, and there were people who thought that we could do better than that. Church means any church, religious society, or congregation of any sect, order, or denomination. That's current law. That's current law. So it was suggested that we change that, and the committee did change that to change church to faith institution means Christian, Jewish, Islamic, Buddhist, and Hindu congregation or any religious society or congregation of any sect, order, or denomination. Again, just making it broader and more inclusive to all of the faith institutions in our communities and around the state. There were questions raised on the floor about whether that was too broad, and so this amendment, Mr. President, colleagues, just removes the word or any sect or order. So that's all this does. So as modified, it would simply say, faith institution means any Christian, Jewish, Islamic, Buddhist, or Hindu congregation or other religious society, congregation, or denomination. I'd like to move the amendment, Mr. President.
All right, the senator has moved the amendment. On the amendment, recognize the senator from District 1.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to acknowledge and appreciate the floor leader. This good senator related to the concerns that I had raised in this amendment. I appreciate you working collaboratively with us to address the issue. And my underlying concerns have been acknowledged, and I look forward to voting for this. So thank you.
Any further discussion on the amendment? If not, any objection to the amendment? Without objection, the amendment is adopted. Question now is on the amended, or excuse me, do we have any further amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, Senate Bill 24 is ordered printed for third reading. We've got one more out of EEE. Let's see if we're here. And then we're going to go to B&T after that. This is Special Order 15. Clerk will read the bill.
Senate Bill 42, Senator M. Washington, Environment, Interjurisdictional Watersheds, Flood Management. Question is on the adoption of the favorable report.
Questions on the adoption of the favorable report. Any discussion? Any objections? Yes, recognize the senator from Frederick County. On the report.
Oh, on the report?
On the report.
Is this, okay, I'll wait to get back to my question that I had.
Now, does the senator have an amendment? Or no?
I was told by this bill sponsor that she was going to remove Frederick County from the bill. I'm going to assume that since I'm not seeing any look this direction, that is not the case.
So is that a question? Does the senator have a question for the floor leader?
Sure. Would the floor leader
yield for a question? Senator May.
At the end of our hearing on Wednesday, you had mentioned that you were going to remove Frederick County from the bill. Is that no longer the case?
So, Mr. President, I explored what the impact would be and I believe we forwarded it to your laptop, but I was advised by committee counsel that, as I had stated on the floor previously, that this is in code under COMAR, so it's on your laptop, interjurisdictional flood hazards, and Carroll Creek and Frederick Creek, they're listed. So that would be inconsistent, and so that amendment's not appropriate.
So, Mr. President, seeing as the discussion because the county was never contacted by this, my county has a letter that they've submitted that they do not want to be a part of this because there is a potential mandated cost that would cost the county between $250,000 to $400,000 by their estimate. They didn't ask to be a part of this. They're already in the old language. I don't understand why the bill sponsor would feels that it's necessary to include them in this new language, because this new language is clearly for an issue that is trying to be find a solution in Baltimore County, not in Frederick County. So it would be my request that because there was no removal, as I was told, that I would ask then to special order so I can get said amendment drafted up when I was told that it was actually being done by the sponsor.
All right, well, the senators made a motion to special order the bill. Let's hear from the floor leader on the motion.
Yeah, oh, yes. But we will resist the amendment. But yes, thank you. Yes, absolutely, no problem.
Okay. All right, it seems there's no objection from the committee. Any objection from the floor? Without objection, the bill will be special ordered to the appropriate time tomorrow. All right, let's go to budget and tax. Report number 4. Clerk, read the first bill.
Senate Bill 131, Senator Simon Nair, Anne Arundel County Property Tax Credit Supermarkets, favorable with one amendment.
Recognize the senator from Baltimore County as the floor leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, as we know, food deserts are a major issue in many parts of our state. This is a local bill that tries to take care of it in Anne Arundel County, and what it does is offer property tax credits for supermarkets that are willing to go into some of these areas that are food deserts. There was no opposition to this bill. There was a amendment which added co-sponsors. I move favorable on the bill and
move the amendment?
Yes, sir.
All right, Senator moves the amendment in the favorable committee report. On the amendment, any discussion? Any objections? Without objection, the one committee amendment is adopted. Question now is on the amended report. Any discussion? Any objections? Without objection, the amended report is adopted. Are there any further amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, Senate Bill 131 is hereby ordered printed for third reading. Clerk, read the next bill.
Senate Bill 178, Senator Simon Nair, Anne Arundel County Property Tax Credit Habitat for Humanity of the Chesapeake Incorporated, favorable with one amendment.
Recognizing the senator from District 7 as the floor leader.
Thank you. The Anne Arundel Habitat for Humanity, actually in state law, it actually had their address, and they have since moved. So in order to update that, we had to come back to state law and change that. So what this bill did is it removed their address, and they actually did change their name now to the Habitat for Humanity of the Chesapeake Incorporated. So what this bill does is it strikes their address and just updates their name. No opposition. There was a sponsor amendment for Anne Arundel County and again a local bill. I move favorable in the committee report and the amendment.
All right, floor leader moves to the adoption of the one committee amendment in the favorable committee report. On the amendment, any discussion? Any objections? Without objection, the one committee amendment is adopted. Question now on the amended report. Any discussion? Any objections? Without objection, the amended report is adopted. Are there any further amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, Senate Bill 178 is hereby ordered printed for third reading. Clerk, read the next bill.
Senate Bill 719, Senator Carrozza, Somerset County Property Tax Emergency Services Tax, favorable.
Recognize the senator from District 7 as the floor leader.
Thank you again. Public safety is not our number one priority. It is what government does, providing it to our constituents. And this bill is local county, Somerset County. They're following what many of our other counties have done across the state by imposing a local annual property tax to homeowner or property tax so that they can help pay for these services, fires, EMS. No opposition. Again, local county bill. No amendments, and I move favorable in the committee report, Mr. President.
Floor leader moves for adoption of the favorable committee report. Any discussion? Chair recognizes the senator from Grumman County.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, you know, it's interesting. I got tuned in a little bit this morning based on some conversation when the minority whip was asking questions about increases in fees that have not been increased in better than 30 years. And I appreciate the fiscal prudence, although I believe in that particular instance it may be misplaced. Certainly, government in the year 2025 functions very differently than government did in the year 1990, and that is a conversation to be had, but it did get my attention. And so now all of a sudden I'm looking up and I see and what I think may be, and I wanted some clarification, so would the floor leader mind yielding for just a couple of questions?
Will the floor leader yield for a question?
Still thinking. Sure, yes.
Senator may proceed.
Thank you, Floor Leader. So I just wanted to confirm that my understanding of the legislation before the body at the moment is a new tax on residents in the state of Maryland. Am I understanding that correctly? And I believe it is a new property tax, and I am not opining on the merits. I'm just curious, is this in fact a new tax?
This is a new property tax to the constituents of this community, or this county. It's enabling. But again, this is not a new tax. Other counties have done it. I'll give you an example. 3 counties in particular, Charles, Howard, and Montgomery County. I don't know if you're familiar with that county. They actually have done this, and they've enabled it countywide. So your constituents, who have one of the best fire and EMS services in the state.
The senators' constituents.
The constituents
of the
of your county, they benefit of the senator's county. What am I saying? Pronouns. He, him. I'm lost on this thing. I'm sorry.
No.
But what I'm trying to say is,
yes,
we're trying to make sure that this lower Eastern Shore county that has how many stations? I think it's 13 volunteer EMS stations. Eight EMS stations. These constituents, they need fire EMS. Fire stations are expensive. Fire engines are expensive. They're close to $750,000 nowadays. They need to make sure. Like I said, 3 counties I know of. St. Mary's County has done it. Frederick County has done it. They're just stepping up to the plate like other counties to make sure their constituents are taken care of.
No, I understand. As I indicated, taxes can be a significant investment, an investment that all can benefit from. But I was just looking to verify, and I appreciate that this is an investment in public safety in this particular area of the state. I just wanted to confirm that it is a new tax.
It is.
And it sounds like that is the case. So
It is, and I do think the commissioners will take that into consideration as they look at this. Once this is passed, they're going to go back to their communities. They're going to try to determine, hey, what impact will this have? How much do they need to raise? You know, what does their fire service, their EMS service need? What can their constituents, handle before they make this decision? If they actually enable it, they may not. They may come back and say, hey, you know what? We actually don't need it right now. It's just, it's a code county. They have to come to us for permission to do it. That's what we're doing.
I appreciate that. No, thank you very much for your candor. Mr. President, thank you. My question was answered.
Thank you, Senator. All right, on the report, any further discussion? Any objections to the report? Without objection, the favorable committee report is adopted. Are there any amendments to the bill or its title? Seeing none, Senate Bill 719 is hereby ordered printed for third reading. All right, we're going to do one more today, and then we'll hold for the rest. We've got a special order calendar number 16. Clerk will read the bill.
Senate Bill 444, Senator Smith, Public Safety Gun Buyback Programs, Destruction of Firearms. Question is in the adoption of the favorable report as amended.
Question is on the amended report as amended. Recognize the chair of the committee.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. We're actually waiting for an amendment to the amended amendment, which is being printed now. So I guess we're going to have to special order this till the appropriate time tomorrow.
All right. Any objections from the floor? Without objection, the bill will be special ordered to the appropriate time tomorrow. All right, we're going to pause there. We'll leave the rest. We have a light day tomorrow, so we'll take the third readers up tomorrow. Let's see. Finance.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senate Finance will meet today at 1 o'clock for 12 bills and 109 witnesses.
All right. Education, Energy, and the Environment.
Thank you, Mr. President. The EEE Committee will meet today at 1 p.m. We've got 17 bill hearings. Thank you.
All right. Budget and Tax.
Thank you, Mr. President. We will meet at 1 o'clock also. We have bill hearings, then budget hearings, then voting.
Excellent. Busy day. Judicial Proceedings.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Judicial Proceedings Committee will meet today at 1 p.m. for bill hearings. We have 13 bills on the docket.
All right. Busy day. We're in it. In the 40s. All right. Let's see. Other standing committees. Rules. Delegations. Chair of the Howard County delegation.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Howard County delegation will meet for very briefly in the Silver Room immediately after the floor session.
All right. Prince George's delegation.
Thank you, Mr. President. Prince George will meet tomorrow at 6 p.m. Please be prompt. Our county executive will be joining us tomorrow, 6 p.m. Thank you.
All right. Any further announcements? Select committees? Yes, Senator from District 9.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, I just wanted to bring your attention to an email that should be in your inbox inviting you to a special demonstration briefing Friday at 9 a.m. in the Triple E Committee Room. The briefing is on MView, which is the Maryland Coordination and Analysis Center. I had an opportunity to visit there over the interim, found it really helpful, especially for school safety. This is a closed private briefing, and we can't have a quorum, so if you're interested, please sign up ASAP. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Senator. All right. Yes, Senator from Baltimore County.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, the Veterans Caucus meeting will be held on tomorrow, Wednesday, February 26, 2025 at 8 a.m. in the House Office Building, Baltimore County Delegation Room number 145, with special guests, Colonel Yolanda Gore, Commander of the U.S. Army Garrison Fort George G. Meade, and Every Mind, Serving Together. Serving Together offers veteran support to all individuals who wore the uniform of our military, regardless of age, era, branch, or discharge status. Light refreshments will be served, and we're looking forward to several upcoming special events, including March 3rd, 2025, the Fallen Comrades Acknowledgement here on the Senate floor. March 10th, 2025, the Women's of the 6888 Central Post Directional Battalion. That's going to be on the Senate floor. March 11, 2025 at 8:30 a.m. a wreath laying for 6888 at the World War II Memorial. And March 11, 2025, again, the Warrior Competition Recognition, the 2024 Airmen and the Soldiers of the Year for the Maryland National Guard. And that's going to be on the Senate floor as well. As well, March 25th, 2025, 8 a.m., breakfast with the governor. And our last two meetings will be held on March 12th, 2025, and March 26th, 2025. Thanks, Mr. President.
Wonderful. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, Chair of the Baltimore County. No. Jewish Caucus.
Thank you, Mr. President. I want to take this opportunity to invite the entire body to a lunch and learn on Friday in honor of Black History Month. The Maryland Legislative Black Caucus, the Maryland Legislative Jewish Caucus are having a joint lunch and learn where a couple of our colleagues will talk about their own personal experiences working in the Black and Jewish communities. It's in room 102 over on the House side, and I think it'll be a really interesting informal opportunity. Noon on Friday. Please join us. Thank you. You should have received an email about it.
Wonderful. Thank you, Senator. Any further announcements? Any further? Yes, Senator from Montgomery.
Thank you, Mr. President. If time affords the opportunity, Montgomery County will be meeting immediately following session on Thursday to continue. I think we've only got a couple of bills on the voting list for Thursday. So thank you, Mr. President.
Excellent. Thank you, Senator. Any further announcements? Anything for the good of the order? If not, let's do a quorum call.
Mr. President?
Has everyone recorded their presence? If so, the clerk will take the call. With 45 members in the chamber and a quorum being present, the Senate of Maryland remains in session, recognizing the Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the Senate of Maryland stand adjourned until Wednesday, February 26th at 10 a.m.
Without objection, so ordered. Stay safe. Have a wonderful day.